7 money mistakes most 30-year-olds make. You're in your 30s now, making decent money, way more than you made 5 years ago, but somehow your bank account doesn't really reflect that. You've got maybe $8,000 saved if you're lucky. You're still carrying a credit card balance from who knows what purchases. And when you actually sit down and think about retirement or buying a house or any of those adult financial milestones, you get this sinking feeling that you should be further along than you are. And the weird part is that you're doing okay on the surface. You can pay your bills, you're not in crisis mode, but you're also not building wealth, not making real progress, just kind of existing financially. Treading water while you watch some of your friends somehow pull ahead, buying homes, investing seriously, talking about their retirement accounts like they actually have substantial money in them. My name is Jack, and I spend way too much time analyzing the financial patterns of people in their 30s, specifically trying to understand why this decade is where some people establish the foundation for real wealth, while others stay stuck in the same financial patterns they had in their 20s, just with bigger paychecks and nicer apartments. And what I've discovered is that there are a handful of specific, predictable mistakes that most 30-year-olds make. Mistakes that aren't obvious in the moment but compound over time into genuinely significant wealth that never gets built. Because here's what's interesting about your 30s. This is the decade where small financial decisions have massive long-term consequences because of how compound interest works. A mistake you make at 32 costs you way more in ultimate wealth than the same mistake at 25 or even at 40. You're in this critical window where you theoretically have decent income, you're not yet burdened with all of middle age's financial obligations, and you still have 25 to 30 years for investments to compound. This is your wealth building prime. So if you're in your 30s and you're wondering why you don't feel more financially secure despite making good money, or if you want to avoid the mistakes that keep people from building wealth during this crucial decade, this is for you. Because understanding these patterns isn't about shame or regret. It's about recognizing what's happening and making different choices going forward. Mistake 1. Lifestyle inflation on autopilot. Let's start with probably the most common and most destructive mistake. You're letting your spending rise automatically with your income without any strategic thought about it. You made $45,000 at 25 and you saved maybe $3,000 a year. Now you're making $75,000 at 32 and you're still saving $3,000 a year. Your income went up by $30,000, but your savings stayed flat because your rent went up. Your car got nicer, you eat out more, you travel more, you've got subscriptions you didn't have before, your clothes are better quality. All of it feels justified. You're making more money, why shouldn't you live better? But here's the trap. If your savings rate stays constant in percentage terms, it should have gone from $3,000 to $5,000 just by scaling with income. But in reality, most people's savings rate goes down as income goes up because lifestyle inflation outpaces income growth. The wealthy people I know, they did the opposite. Their income went from $45,000 to $75,000, and they went from saving $3,000 to saving $15,000. They kept their lifestyle relatively stable and channeled the income growth into wealth building. And over a decade, that compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference. I watched myself fall into this trap in my early 30s. I got a promotion and a $20,000 raise, and within 6 months, my spending had increased by about $18,000 annually. Better apartment, nicer car, more frequent travel. And I justified every expense. I work hard, I deserve this, I can afford it. Technically true, but I'd blown a massive opportunity to accelerate wealth building. The fix isn't to live like you're still in college forever. It's to be intentional about lifestyle inflation. Maybe let your lifestyle inflate by 25 to 30% of income increases and invest the other 70 to 75%. You still get to enjoy your success, but you're building substantial wealth simultaneously. Mistake 2. Carrying expensive debt like it's normal. Here's one that's insidious because it feels so normal. You're carrying credit card debt, maybe a car payment, possibly student loans, and you've just accepted this as part of adult life. Everybody has debt, right? It's fine as long as you're making the payments. Except debt is an emergency. High-interest debt especially is a financial crisis that you're treating like a routine expense. If you're carrying a $5,000 credit card balance at 18% interest, you're paying $900 a year just in interest. That's $900 that's literally disappearing, buying you nothing, building you no wealth, just gone. And car payments. This is a big one for 30-year-olds. You've got a $500 or $700 monthly car payment, and you think that's just what cars cost. But it's not. That's what new cars cost. A reliable used car that you buy in cash exists, and the difference between $700 a month in payments and zero is $8,400 a year that could be invested. Over your 30s, if you invest that $700 monthly instead of paying it to an auto lender, that's over $130,000 by age 40, including investment returns. That's not a rounding error. That's a substantial portion of your retirement. I had a friend who was making $95,000 a year and couldn't figure out why he had no savings. Turns out he had a $650 car payment, a $200 payment on furniture financing, and was carrying about $8,000 in rotating credit card debt. He was paying nearly $1,200 a month just servicing debt, not even reducing principal significantly. Once he saw it laid out, he was horrified. The 30s are when you should be eliminating debt aggressively, not normalizing it. Attack high-interest debt like it's on fire. Don't finance depreciating assets. Get out from under these monthly obligations so your money can start working for you instead of for lenders. Mistake 3, treating retirement savings as optional. This one kills me because the math is so obvious, yet people still don't do it. You're either not investing for retirement at all, or you're contributing just enough to get the employer match and calling it good. If you're 30 and you want to retire comfortably at 65, you need to be saving about 15 to 20% of your income for retirement. Not 3%, not 5%, not just the match. A real, substantial portion of your income needs to be going into tax-advantaged retirement accounts. And I know what you're thinking. I'll catch up later. I'll save more when I'm making more money. Except you probably won't, because lifestyle inflation and new expenses, kids, bigger house, aging parents, will eat that increased income. And more importantly, you can't get back the compound growth you miss by not investing in your 30s. $500 a month invested at 30 becomes about $560,000 by 65 at 8% returns. That same $500 a month starting at 40 becomes about $240,000. You literally can't make up for lost time in investing. The compound growth of those early years is irreplaceable. I talk to people in their late 30s with maybe $30,000 in retirement savings, and they're finally starting to realize they're in trouble. But now they need to save $2,000 or $2,500 a month to catch up to where they should be, which is way harder than if they'd just been consistent with $1,000 a month throughout their 30s. The fix is simple but requires commitment. Automate retirement contributions to hit at least 15% of your gross income. Max out your 401k if possible. Open and fund a Roth IRA. Make this non-negotiable, not something you do with leftover money, because there's never leftover money. Mistake 4. Confusing income for wealth. Here's a psychological trap that's particularly common in your 30s. You're making good money, so you feel wealthy, even though your net worth is basically zero. You make $85,000 a year. That puts you in the top third of earners. You can afford nice things. You feel successful. But if I asked you what your net worth is, assets minus liabilities, you'd probably say something between minus $10,000 and plus $20,000. You have high income but low wealth. And the problem is that high income without wealth building is just an expensive lifestyle you'll have to maintain forever. You're locked into that income requirement. You can't take career risks, you can't retire early, you can't handle income disruptions. You're trapped by your own spending. Meanwhile, someone making $60,000 who's been investing $15,000 a year has building real wealth. Lower income, higher net worth, more freedom. They're not as flashy, but they're more financially secure. This mistake manifests in a bunch of ways. Expensive cars, luxury apartments, designer clothes, frequent high-end travel, all things that signal income but don't build wealth. You're optimizing for looking successful instead of being successful. I fell into this trap hard around age 33. I was making good money and I dressed well, drove a nice car, lived in a great apartment. I looked successful. but my net worth was maybe $40,000, which was pathetic for my income level. I'd confused earning well with building wealth, and they're absolutely not the same thing. The shift is mental. Start measuring success by net worth growth, not by income or lifestyle. Track your net worth monthly. Set targets. Celebrate when you hit $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in net worth. These are the real milestones, not the promotion or the raise. Mistake 5. Not investing in career growth. Here's one that's easy to overlook. You've settled into a comfortable job and you're not actively working on increasing your earning potential anymore. Your 20s are hustle mode. You're learning, growing, switching jobs, building skills. But somewhere in your early 30s, a lot of people coast. They get comfortable. They stop learning new skills, stop networking, stop looking for better opportunities. And their income growth stalls. But your 30s should be your peak earning growth years. This is when experience meets energy, when you should be making major career moves, when your income should be jumping significantly. If your income is only growing 2 to 3% annually in your 30s, you're leaving enormous amounts of money on the table. The difference between someone whose income grows from $60,000 to $75,000 over their 30s versus someone who grows from $60,000 to $110,000 is literally millions of dollars in lifetime earnings and wealth building capacity. And that kind of growth requires active career management, developing valuable skills, switching jobs strategically, negotiating aggressively, building expertise that commands premium pay. I know people who stayed at the same company throughout their 30s out of comfort and loyalty, getting 3% annual raises. I know other people who switched jobs twice, learned high-value skills, and doubled their income in the same time frame. Same decade, same industry, completely different financial trajectories. The fix? Treat your earning potential as your most valuable asset and invest in it accordingly. Take courses, get certifications, learn high-income skills, network intentionally, interview even when you're not looking, know your market value. Don't get comfortable. Your 30s are too valuable to coast through. Mistake 6. Making big financial decisions emotionally. This is where 30-year-olds really get themselves in trouble, making massive financial commitments based on emotion rather than strategy. You feel like you should buy a house because all your friends are, so you stretch to buy something at the top of your budget without really running the numbers. You propose and immediately start planning a $40,000 wedding because that's what weddings cost now, apparently, without questioning whether that's insane. You have a baby and immediately buy a $35,000 SUV because that's what parents drive, even though your current car is perfectly safe. These big emotional purchases in your 30s, house, wedding, car for the baby, private school tuition, can easily derail a decade of potential wealth building if you're not strategic about them. The house is the big one. I can't tell you how many people I know who bought houses in their early 30s that they could afford according to the bank, meaning the payment was about 30% of their gross income. But that left them house poor with no capacity to save, invest, or handle unexpected expenses. Or weddings. I've watched couples spend $50,000 on a wedding when they had $12,000 in combined savings. They literally spent 4 times their net worth on one day, and then they wonder why they can't afford a down payment on a house 2 years later. The emotion is understandable. These are major life events. You want them to be special. There's social pressure. There are expectations. But emotion is expensive, and your 30s are when you find out whether you can make major financial decisions rationally or whether you're going to let feelings drive choices that affect decades of your financial future. Mistake 7. Thinking there's still plenty of time. And finally, the most subtle and perhaps most dangerous mistake. You're still operating with the mindset that you have infinite time to get your finances together. You're only 32, 35, 38. You've got decades until retirement. You'll get serious about saving next year, after you pay off this thing, after you buy that thing, after life settles down a bit. There's time, except there isn't, really. Not as much as you think. Every year you delay is exponentially more expensive than you realize because of compound interest working in reverse. Not investing $10,000 this year doesn't just cost you $10,000. It costs you the $70,000 that money would have grown into by retirement. And more practically, life gets more expensive, not less, as you move through your 30s and into your 40s. Kids get more expensive as they age, parents start needing help, health issues emerge. The fantasy that you'll have more free cash flow in 5 years to save and invest? Probably not true. Your 30s are it. This is the decade. If you don't build wealth in your 30s, you're going to spend your 40s playing catch up, your 50s panicking about retirement, and your 60s working when you'd rather not be. The time to act isn't later, it's now, today, this year. Because the 30s go by faster than you think, and on the other side of them, you're either someone who built substantial wealth during this crucial decade or someone who wishes they had. The path forward. Look, if you're recognizing yourself in some or all of these mistakes, that's actually good. Awareness is the first step. Most people never even realize what they're doing wrong. They just wake up at 45 wondering where all the money went. The beautiful thing about being in your 30s is that you still have time to completely change your financial trajectory. You can recover from these mistakes. You can start making different choices. And the compound effect of those better choices over the next 10 or 20 years is genuinely life-changing. But it requires being honest about where you are, what you've been doing wrong, and what needs to change. It requires prioritizing wealth building, even when it means saying no to things you want. It requires playing the long game in a culture that's obsessed with immediate gratification. Your 30s are your wealth-building prime. You have income, you have time, you have the energy to hustle and the discipline to delay gratification. But you won't have this combination of factors forever. Use it while you have it. So wherever you are right now, whether you're making all 7 of these mistakes or just a couple, make a commitment. This is the decade you get your financial life together. This is when you stop making excuses and start building real wealth. Because the 40-year-old version of you is depending on the choices you make right now. Don't let them down.